has the Baltimore Ravens offense peaked under offensive coordinator Greg Roman? Now, Greg Roman has been the OC in Baltimore for the last couple of seasons. And you know, when he first got there, Lamar Jackson went crazy. He had that MVP season. And then they got upset by the Tennessee Titans in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. And then after that, the offense kind of has been a big criticism of many Ravens fans. Many Ravens fans feel that the offense is being held back by Greg Roman simply for the fact that he has been unable to improve the passing game. Many people say that his passing concepts are middle school level and that it needs to improve. And at first, you know, when people used to say that Greg Roman was holding back the offense, I used to strongly push back against it. Because I said, listen, Greg Roman was monumental in the development of Lamar Jackson. And if you're not going to give him credit for that, then you're just a hater. Because everybody knows in the NFL that some of the most important things when it comes to making sure that your young quarterback develops and that he's successful is making sure that you can get an offensive coordinator who knows how to utilize his strengths. And Greg Roman knew how to utilize Lamar Jackson's strengths because he's worked with quarterbacks that had a similar skill set in the past, such as Colin Kaepernick, please don't kill me for saying that name, and Tyrod Taylor with the Buffalo Bills. However, now that I start to think about it, I do think that it's fair to say that the Ravens offense kind of has reached the maximum potential that it can reach under Greg Roman. You see, Greg Roman has really phenomenal run schemes, and the run game has always been really good. Another thing that not enough people talk about when it comes to Greg Roman is that, of course, if you run the football the majority of the time, you're not going to throw the football that many times. So if you're not throwing the football that much, you don't have that many pass attempts, of course you're not going to have a lot of yards through the air. For the Ravens to have a top 10 passing attack, they would need to average 13 yards per pass, which would be absolutely insane. You get what I'm saying? That's unrealistic in a sense. So for Greg Roman, I think that you can make the argument for him holding back the offense, and you also can make the argument for saying that maybe Baltimore just needs to hire a better receiving coach, in which they did that. And on top of that, they also hired a new passing game coordinator to help improve the passing game. And another thing is that last year, you know, Greg Roman had two backup quarterbacks in Josh Johnson and Tyler Huntley balling out. Now, I know that they weren't balling out in the sense of, you know, they were anything sensational. But if you're viewing their performance, at least on a backup level, they played pretty well for backups under Greg Roman. So I kind of feel that the Greg Roman argument is a Swiss sword in a sense. Because I think a lot of Ravens fans most of the time use Greg Roman as a scapegoat for why they lose games or why they're not able to have the kind of success that they want. But at the same time, the reason why I'm now starting to side with the majority of people who think that the Ravens offense has peaked under Greg Roman is because you got to remember, it is a passing league. You have to be able to throw the football at a really high level if you want to be able to win. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. Every time they've been to the Super Bowl or they went to the NFC Conference Championship game under Kyle Shanahan, they've came up short because Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't good enough to get the job done throwing the football through the air. As a matter of fact, a lot of people probably will agree with me and say that Jimmy Garoppolo kind of got carried in a sense, literally, because he didn't really have to throw the football all that much because the 49ers ground game was just so dominant. You go back to that year when they lost to Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Their run game was sensational throughout that playoff stretch. And even back to this past season, their run game was still very fantastic. Jimmy Garoppolo had to do the bare minimum. But when you asked Jimmy Garoppolo to put the ball in the air, he was unable to do it. So yes, you do have to have a good run game to keep defense off balance. But at the end of the day, your success and how many games that you win and lose is most of the time coming down to how effectively you can throw the football, especially when you get into the playoffs. Because the better teams that you face in the playoffs, the better teams that you're going to have that have really good defensive lines that are stout at stopping the run. And for Lamar Jackson, you know, he also deserves a little bit of blame because some of those losses he didn't really perform all that well in. And that's been a big knock on him is his performance in the playoffs, even though I feel that some of it has been unwarranted. Some of it has also been, deserved. So for Greg Roman, I definitely do think that he is holding back the offense in a sense because he's not great when it comes to passing concepts. And Ravens fans make it seem as if he can just improve that. And you really can't. You get what I'm saying? Like, you are who you are as a person. So if I'm an introvert and I don't really like going to parties, I can't just flip the switch and just become just this social creature that loves talking to people, that loves being around people, because that's not me. Kind of makes me uncomfortable. And for Greg Roman, he specializes in the run game department. Now, it's not as if the offenses suck under Greg Roman, like Ravens fans try to make it seem. The offenses are normally really good under Greg Roman because of how dominant they are running the football. But if the Baltimore Ravens are ever going to want to be able to win a Super Bowl with Lamar, they're going to have to bring in an offensive coordinator that's a little bit more creative when it comes to the passing concepts because it's a passing league. And I love Greg Roman. He'll probably end up getting another job somewhere else with another quarterback that has a similar skill set because he knows how to get the most out of quarterbacks with those skill sets really early on into their careers. But at this point now, the Ravens need Lamar Jackson to develop more as a passer. And they need to put him in positions that gives him better offenses when it comes to throwing the football concept-wise. Now, for the Ravens personnel-wise, you're banging on Rashad Bateman becoming that number one wide receiver because pretty much Greg Roman's passing attack revolves around a lot of tight ends and probably one or two receivers. It's not a receiver-friendly offense, which was the main reason why Marquise Hollywood-Brown requested a trade from Baltimore and got traded to Arizona. He wanted to go to an offense that featured the wide receivers more. Now, we do have to talk about how many drop passes and how many drop touchdowns Marquise Brown had, but I think Marquise Brown was pretty solid during his time in B-Moore. He's coming off the best season of his career, and he kind of just wanted to be featured in the offense more. That put a little bit more emphasis on the passing game. So for Greg Roman, I don't really think the Marquise Brown thing is an indictment on him, like how Ravens fans try to make it out to be. I just think it's more of an indictment of, you want a player who wants to be in a more friendly offense when it comes to getting the wide receivers involved. And Greg Roman's offense isn't really the offense for that unless you're a tight end. And that's probably a main reason why Baltimore struggles to attract big-name wide receivers in free agency. Because nobody wants to play for an offense that runs the football the majority of the time, that is pretty much in the bottom of the NFL when it comes to passing attempts per game. So when you have a team that doesn't throw the football that much, yeah, if I'm a wide receiver, I probably wouldn't want to go there neither. But I do think that Greg Roman is holding back the Ravens offense in a sense because in today's NFL, you got to be able to throw the football if you want to have success. It's not the 90s. It's not the early 2000s. It's 2022, people. It's 2022. So let me know how you guys feel about Greg Roman. Do you guys feel that the Ravens offense has peaked under him? Is he holding back this offense? Let me know down in the comment section down below. And I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the podcast. Make sure that you check out the JT Sports Podcast on every single podcasting platform. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. And I will see you guys shortly with another episode.